Well, this week we've been looking at the future of Bitcoin every day. Washington is paying more attention to the virtual currency now, and not everybody is a buyer. The Senate Homeland Security Committee held the first ever hearing into Bitcoin last month. Chief Washington correspondent Peter Cook is in our D.C. studio with the committee's chairman, Senator Tom Carper of Delaware. Peter.
Betty, thanks very much. Joined here by Chairman Carper. Thank you for the time. Appreciate a whole host of issues out there that you're dealing with as the Congress wraps up. But I want to talk with you, first of all, about Bitcoin, because you're the first senator to really express an interest in this. What is your takeaway after your first hearing about Bitcoin, the future of Bitcoin, and what Washington should do about it?
Well, first of all, what I know about Bitcoin would fit in a very small thimble. And we held a hearing a month or so ago just to find out more about this phenomenon, to help educate me and my colleagues. I was the only member of the committee that showed up. We did the hearing on a Monday afternoon, and a lot of people are still coming into town, so we shouldn't be too surprised. We had a real good host of a breadth of witnesses that included the FBI, Treasury, the Justice Community, Department of Justice. And as it turns out, they've actually been focused on this for a while the rest of us, a lot of us have just been ignorant of it. They've been focusing on it for quite a while, and they've said that the idea of a virtual currency actually has some promise for a lot of bad, we know about that, but also the potential for doing a lot of good in terms of enhancing commerce, the flow of goods and services, and actually maybe being of value to consumers too. So their advice was, let's be mindful of the bad, or there's money laundering, pornography, child pornography, illegal drug.
The Silk Road example being the most prominent.
Well, that's out there. But they also did remember the internet. You know, when the internet was young, a lot of people said, well, tell the horribles, the bad things that could happen if we have the internet. Well, as it turned out, those bad things do happen, in part facilitated by the internet. But there's so much more good that the internet makes possible. And while we work to tamp down the bad on the internet, we work hard to make sure that the good is able to flourish.
So how do you tamp down the bad? Do you think there's the prospect for legislation in the future? Is there a federal regulatory role that needs to be put in place here? Because there's some questions about who actually regulates Bitcoin. Is it truly a currency? Is it more a security? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I've asked our committee staff, Democrat and Republican, after the hearing last month, to having gathered all this information from a lot of different government agencies, and we didn't just do the hearing, we reached out across the government and said, tell us what you think. What do we need to do in terms of regulation? Is this good? Is this bad? And we've gathered a lot of information. I've asked for a report next month. We'll get that next month, and that'll help give us a path forward. In the meantime, this is probably not going away. Virtual currencies are not going away. And if they're going to be a reality, we need to figure out how to let them exist to do good, a lot more good than bad, and figure out how to deal with the bad.
So right now, no verdict really on legislation, whether or not Washington needs to step in and do more.
That's right.
Let me ask you about a couple other issues as we're wrapping up the Congress here. We got word yesterday, Senator Max Baucus, the chairman of the Senate Finance Committee, he's been the point man on tax reform in Congress. The president's going to nominate him to be the next ambassador to China. You're on the Finance Committee. Your reaction to that, and what does that mean for tax reform in the next year? I
told him last night with tongue-in-cheek, I'm putting a hold on your nomination to be ambassador to China. We've got too much to do here. We have all this still a health care reform to do, to doc fix and reimbursement rates under Medicare, not to mention tax reform, which he's worked on along with Orrin Hatch and Dave Camp and Sandy Levitt over in the House. I mean, like, it's teed up. And the president now nominates him to go off to China to be our ambassador, which is a great job, a great assignment, and I think he'd do a terrific job at it. But
it's going to hurt the tax reform effort, won't it?
It doesn't help. It does not help. And you need leadership. It's so hard to get anything done on a good day in Washington, but to have, he's worked so hard to have common ground with Orrin Hatch, Republican on our committee leader, and over in the House with Congressman Camp, Congressman Levin. I mean, to have the four amigos working that way together, and then one of them being pulled out and sent off to China.
There's a long list of companies who are counting on Max Baucus to deliver some sort of tax reform, particularly corporate tax reform. They've got to be sitting back now and saying this is not going to happen anytime soon.
Well, it makes it more difficult. The other thing is he won't be confirmed right away. One of the things we learned is that nominations, even if our colleagues don't go quickly, and Mike said last night there'll be some time to get things done, and maybe it'll help accelerate our efforts to do that. I sure hope so.
What about this budget deal that just wrapped up here in the Senate yesterday, cleared Congress? You've been one of those pushing for a compromise, larger deal, that elusive grand bargain out there. What does this temporary deal, this mini deal, mean for that effort? You all are just kicking the can down the road. Doesn't it push that even further away?
Well, the key to deficit reduction, as I said to you in our earlier conversation, three things we need to do. One, We need entitlement reform that saves these programs, saves money, actually doesn't savage old people or poor people. We need tax reform that lowers the corporate rates for make us competitive with the rest of the world, and also that raises some revenues. And we need to really change our culture that focuses on how do we get better results for less money in everything we do in the federal government. Those are the three things we need to do. I applaud the efforts of Patty Murray and Paul Ryan to get a small deal, to avoid a government shutdown, and to say that we can actually work together, make some modest progress toward deficit reduction. My hope, what we can do is build on that, and we need to.
What about the debt ceiling?
This is not the finish line. This is the end of the beginning. This is not the end.
And it doesn't include any agreement on the debt ceiling. We're looking, people are talking about the kumbaya right now in Congress, bipartisan agreement, but Senator, this is February 7th. That deadline's coming up. No deal there. Aren't we looking right now at another crisis in the new year over that?
My hope is that my colleagues and I have decided we don't need any more fiscal cliffs. We don't need any shutdowns. And there's something good that came out of this discussion, and that is Patty Murray and Paul Ryan got to know each other pretty well and develop a sense of trust. And a big part of getting things done here is the two C's, communicate and compromise. And they've showed a great willingness to communicate effectively, to develop a sense of trust in who they are, and the concerns on the other side of the table, and also to be willing to make some compromises. And maybe we can build on that. I think that the glass is half full. We need to can't just give up. We have to keep working at this.
The president says he's not going to negotiate over the debt ceiling going forward. Is that right, or Democrats, you can be willing to offer something in terms of compromise?
Well, I'm going to be interested in pushing those three things I talked about earlier. Entitlement reform that saves money, saves these programs, doesn't savage old people, and tax reform that raises some revenues, and then focus on everything we do and see how do we get a better result for less money. However long I serve in the Senate, that's what I'm going to focus on, and I'm going to focus on that certainly as we approach the next budget resolution.
As we go, Janet Yellen confirmation tomorrow?
2 thumbs up.
Tomorrow, Friday or today?
I think tomorrow.
All right, I think tomorrow. Senator Carper, appreciate it. Thanks for the time. Happy holidays to you, and appreciate you